Former President Trump reporting to a federal judge tomorrow in Miami. He is facing 37 counts over his handling of classified documents. I spoke with Harvard Law Professor Emeritus Alan Dershowitz yesterday to get his reaction. Watch.
I think this is a much stronger indictment than the Bragg indictment, but it's the product of targeting. And the question is, can you prosecute somebody when you targeted that person and went through every hoop, dotted every I, crossed every T, gave lawyers immunity, violated the lawyer-client privilege in many respects, and then came up with something? I don't know how the courts will look at that. And Trump's lucky. He got the case tried in Palm Beach County, where he might get a more sympathetic jury, and he got a good judge.
Joining me right now is Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody. AG Moody, good to see you. Your thoughts on this indictment of Donald Trump?
Well, it is a speaking indictment, meaning they did lay out their case a little more than normal in federal charging documents. As you remember, Maria, I was a former federal prosecutor. Generally, those indictments will kind of track the statutes. And I think that was a must here. You have an American public who is thinking what is good for the goose isn't good for the gander, that Republicans or conservatives are being targeted by this Justice Department. I think your program this weekend was incredible in the sense that you laid out possible defenses. That would be a unique one. But what will happen tomorrow is the president will come in, they will read the charging documents, they'll go through the maximum penalties. And then the defense will have to start laying out a strategy. And I think you've done a good job on this show of pointing out, you know, we just came off the heels of one of his former opponents, Clinton, where, you know, in that case, they did not bring that evidence. Her team did not bring that evidence forward. It came from a third-party agency. They didn't turn over all of the emails. They had to find others through other servers, or they were able to retrieve some on the servers after they had been deleted. Her lawyers deleted and destroyed evidence after they purportedly turned it over. I mean, there are similarities here which I think are striking the American public, and it was pretty bolden that she would come out and almost mock the president when she was not charged for some of the similar conduct. So it's an interesting case, and I think you've done a great job covering it, Maria.
Thank you so much. But let me get your take on the priority of upending this FBI. Governor DeSantis tweeted about this, and he said that it, too, just smells of two-tiered system of justice, and that he would hold those to account as well if he were to become the next president. Your thoughts on the priority of changing the culture at the FBI and the DOJ? Umpteen times, over and over again, we see these two different applications of the law. Beginning with the Russia collusion lie, it was all about pursuing, FISA warrants, surveillance on Trump officials, even though they had no evidence of any collusion. The FBI drove it. The same thing with the Biden laptop, telling us that it's disinformation, ignoring it right before a major election. And now we see it again, two tiers of justice. Do you believe Ron DeSantis, should he have the opportunity, will move to change the culture at these agencies?
Without a doubt. And many forget that Governor DeSantis himself formerly served as a federal prosecutor. And he understands the importance of a government of the people under a rule of law that is fairly applied. And it is no secret. Outside Washington, even agents within the FBI would tell you that within Washington, within that D.C. office, politics have come to bear, and people don't have trust in that Washington office. And so, do I think Governor DeSantis would do something about that? Absolutely. Do I think that that is imperative for the continuity of strength and success and independence of that agency? Without a doubt. And, I think every would-be candidate for the President of the United States, regardless of party, should absolutely vow to do the same thing.
Well, here's a headline from The Federalist. Time for the House GOP to drop everything and target Merrick Garland. The writer writes, seriously, Merrick Garland, Biden's head of the nation's premier law enforcement agency, just chose to seek prison time for a former president, the man right now most likely to face off with the current president in 2024. Ashley, have you had discussions with Ron DeSantis of becoming the next attorney general if, in fact, he were to become president?
Well, you know what I have discussed with Governor DeSantis is the ideals for this country, the fact that he fought for this country and he wants this to be, again, the greatest nation on the face of this earth. And it can be, Maria.
Yeah, we all
of these things that we are talking about, as long as we are all focused on this being a government of the people, as long as the citizens, again, are controlling their destiny, it can be. We have great hope for this nation. You know, we're tired of seeing parents persecuted, political rivals targeted. As we can get back to the nation that we love.
And all the while, communist China is gaining on the U.S. We see it in plain sight. But I want to get your take on the national security issues around the border. You've done such a great job about calling this out. You've been to the border. The Department of Homeland Security is now announcing that Jason Owens is replacing Raul Ortiz as Border Patrol Chief. Owens currently serving as head of the Del Rio sector. As last week, a federal appeals court denied the Biden administration's latest request to allow the mass release of migrants into the U.S. AG Moody, you've seen it. You've got them coming to Florida. You've been spearheading this lawsuit that blocks this policy. What's the latest? What can you tell us about the border situation now, which obviously is a major national security threat?
It is absolutely a major national security threat. And you've been talking on this program about how the Biden administration will take action, or the DOJ will take action to obfuscate what the Biden administration is really doing, or the terrible news, or the demise of a security structure. You know, look at when Title 42 ended. They announced that they would delay debt talk ceilings until that week. Was that a coincidence? You know, this past week, Governor DeSantis and I went to the border again in Arizona. It is a tragedy what is happening there. Folks are incredibly facing dangerous situations. They're being smuggled by the cartels. The cartels are running things at the border. We went to the border. As soon as we left, we saw people were waiting and then started coming over. It is coordinated. I believe at this point, the Biden administration is coordinating with the cartels. In fact, at one point, when state law enforcement was there, nobody was seen. You couldn't see anyone. They left. And then when the federal law enforcement approached the border, they all came out. And the federal law enforcement started taking down the fence to let them in and guide them in. The reality is just untenable. And meanwhile, you have Gavin Newsom saying, oh, we're great people. You're horrible people. You're a horrible person, Governor DeSantis, when you're trying to help get them into a place that is a sanctuary city like California that provides cash funding, you know, in-state tuition, financial assistance, medical coverage to these folks. You know, if he really had compassion, he'd send his own buses and planes down there to pick them up and take them to his state. You know, they're willing to take on that debt with a $32 billion deficit.
He's been attacking Florida and Governor DeSantis for sure. We're going to hear from Newsom at the top of the hour. He sat down with Sean Hannity, so we'll be hearing all of his assessments coming up. But AG, it's great to see you as always. Thanks so much.